Hey hockey player, in this video I'm going to teach you everything that you need to know to optimize your nutrition for tournament days so that you can have high performance output in every single game you play. Look, performance and recovery go hand in hand, and that is the problem that a lot of hockey players run into when they have an AM game and a PM game. If you don't fully recover from your AM game before the PM game, how well do you think you're going to perform? You're not going to perform very well. And when it comes to tournaments, the biggest factor for offsetting fatigue is providing nutrients. This day is all about a supply and demand chain of getting the right nutrients in at the right time so that you can perform, which is the perfect segue into the first big point that I want to make regarding amount versus timing. Look, how much you eat is infinitely more important than when you eat it on an everyday basis. You know, I get a lot of hockey players that say things to me like, hey, no, Coach Garner, I make sure I get 50 grams of whey isolate after every single workout. I'm good to go. And I'm like, oh, okay, great, cool. How much protein do you have in the entire day though? And they've got absolutely no idea. And that's a huge mistake. How much protein you have in the entire day is infinitely more important than when you have it. And yet a lot of people have the cart before the horse, and they care so much more about timing than total daily amounts. However, on tournament day, timing actually takes the precedence of the first number one most important thing. Total amount is the most important thing for your year-round recovery, body composition management, that kind of deal. But on a day where you have two or more glycogen depleting efforts in the same day, timing then takes importance over amount, because you need to ensure that you get the right nutrients in at the right time after the AM game to support your performance in the PM game. There are hormone shifts, neurotransmitter shifts, electrolyte status shifts. There is depletion of both glucose and glycogen from the body, which is then going to cause fatigue in the nervous system and the muscular system. These are all timing-based things that we need to first understand and then reverse engineer so that we can create a blueprint to offset everything so that you maximize your performance. Timing is critical during tournaments, which is why I recommend you making time to prepare your meals in advance. There's nothing that screams victory like preparation. Something I like to tell my athletes is that winning is something you decide to do ahead of time. And that is through preparation. Preparation of meals, preparation of mind, preparation of body. When you do everything that you can do to be successful on a given day, winning is something you decide ahead of time. But if you just try to wing it, then you're going to get randomized results. And randomized results result in randomized performance. So timing, critical. Preparation, critical. On the topic of timing, there is a mistake a lot of hockey players make in reference to carb loading. Now, if you're one of these hockey players who likes to do a great big carb loading meal the night before, I'm not going to pick on you. Everybody's got their own thing that they want to do in order to really fuel up for the day. Here's the problem. You don't want to have this meal too late, because the hockey strength and conditioning community is very far removed from the digestive biochemistry community. And a phenomenon known within digestive biochemistry for a very long time at this point in time in the literature is known as the ileal break. What the heck is the ileal break? Well, in terms of digestion, to really make it simple, your food is going to enter the stomach first, and then there's three sections of the small intestine: the jejunum, the duodenum, and the ileum. Why is this important? Well, if you have a really big meal, the meal is going to spend approximately 3 hours in your stomach. Once it exits the stomach, it's going to spend approximately 8 hours in the small intestine, and then even still, it's got to enter the large intestine and exit itself out of the body. Here's why that's important. Some of you guys are out at an Italian restaurant the night before having a great big pasta to fuel up for the tournament day, but you don't realize that you're actually going to decrease your performance rather than support your performance due to the ileal break. Now, the ileal break happens in the ileum, which is the final third section of the small intestine before it enters the large intestine. But what your body will do is, since it's the very final one and you had your pasta at 8 or 9 p.m., but then you're going to get up at 6 a.m. in order to get ready for your tournament, there comes a problem, because between 9 and 6, we've only got 9 hours of digestion happening, but that food is still in your ileum. And when there is food still in your ileum, but you are eating food to try and have your pre-game meal before your tournament, that ileal brake will turn on, and it turns off digestion north because digestion south is still occurring. What happens then is your body's still processing the pasta from the night before while you're having your pregame meal. But your body's going to turn off digestion and assimilation of that pregame meal because it's still digesting last night's pasta. This means when you go out on the ice, you're going to have that sloshy feeling in your gut. You're going to feel heavy. You're going to feel bloated. You'll probably be burping on the ice. And you thought having the carb loading meal plus the pre-game meal, everything was great, and you were going to have all this fuel out in the ice. But fuel is only fuel if you digest and assimilate it. This is why I recommend, if you're going to have a carb loading meal, have it for lunch the day before rather than the night before, so that you have no issues in the delayed digestive and capacity of the stomach and the 3 sections of the small intestine. Move that carb loading meal to lunch the day before. You'll avoid the ileal brake. You'll have all the food in your muscles where it should be from the carb load, but then your pregame meal is going to be out of your stomach by the time you hit the ice as well, so that everything's working for you and nothing's working against you. We want to remove as much resistance as possible from you reaching your potential out in the ice. So make sure you never make that mistake, because that's well established within the literature and we can't be making that mistake anymore. What should your nutrition look like on a tournament day? Well, you want to keep protein about 1.8 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. This is a little bit lower than what's normally recommended for body composition management. Usually you'd be kicking around 2.2 grams, but for tournament days, I like to dial it back just a little bit in order to create ease of digestion and in order to allow more calories to go towards carbohydrates. Hockey is a glycolytic sport, meaning the primary fuel source that you're using out in the ice for both your muscular system and your nervous system is relying on carbohydrates. Since you are partaking in 2, maybe even 3 hockey games in one day, all utilizing the exact same fuel, then you've got to supply the fuel that's required from the demand that you're placing your body out in the ice. Energy doesn't come for free. If you're going to use energy out in the ice, the only way to recover is to replenish that energy that you used as fast as possible before your next game. So we're going to be a little bit easier on the digestive tract, not have as much meat on this day so that we can make more room for carbohydrates in the diet. 4.4 grams per kilogram is really a base minimum that I recommend. Not the maximum, it would be the minimum that I would recommend. And then last but not least, we have our fat. Fat, I recommend keeping it very low, about 0.5 gram per kilogram of body weight on this day. This is still a very good and healthy amount, but it's low enough as to not disrupt digestion. And that's why I have an asterisk here. 2 things you want a little bit low on tournament day are fiber and fat. Why? Because they both slow down digestion, right? The topic of digestive biochemistry is very important in terms of helping hockey players on tournament days. And if we have fat and fiber, we load up on fat and fiber, and we know from a biochemical standpoint that they slow digestion, but we load up on it pre-game, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to go on the ice. You're still going to have food in your gut, undigested, so you're going to feel bloated. You're going to feel full, just like the issue with the carb load. But perhaps worse off, the nutrients you actually want to your muscles aren't getting there either. Because if you consume protein and carbs with a bunch of fat and fiber, well then the protein and carbs don't digest fast, and then you just wait for the fat and fiber. It doesn't work like that. The fat and fiber actually slows the digestion down of the entire meal. So we do want to keep fat and fiber a little bit lower on tournament days. I do recommend getting the majority of your fat and fiber intake in after your last game. So if your last game was at like 4 p.m. and then, your dinner and your evening snack would have a little bit more fat and fiber to balance things out, while we prioritized what we're eating and the timing of what we're eating for performance before that. Okay? So this is what the typical whole day would look like in terms of your exact macronutrient distribution. These are guidelines. Everybody's different, and I understand that, but this would definitely be the scientific recommended targets you would hit on tournament day, with this potentially going up even further for people with fast metabolisms, or definitely people who are playing 3 games in one day. All right? So this is what we can take from the big picture side of things. When we're zooming in now, more so at the cellular level, we want to optimize nervous system and muscular performance and recovery at the same time. And in order to do that, we've got to respect the 4 golden rules of pre, intra, and post-hockey nutrition. What are the 4 golden rules? You got to maintain adequate hydration. You've got to maintain a readily available flow of amino acids in the bloodstream. You've got to maintain a readily available flow of glucose within the bloodstream, and you have to accomplish goals 1, 2, and 3 with absolutely 0 gastrointestinal distress, because no matter what your strategy is, if you've got bloating and a heavy feeling that you're taking out in the ice, then it's definitely the wrong strategy for you. So, in order to stay true to the golden rules of hockey nutrition, my golden rules of hockey nutrition, we want to keep this our mainstay for throughout the day. Pre-game meal would ideally be a 1-to-1 ratio of carbohydrates to protein. So you're going to want 30 to 40 grams of both protein and carbohydrate pre-game. Remember, keep fat and fiber low. So things like the classic chicken and rice is a good option here. And if you're a smaller individual, you would lean more on the 30 end. If you're a larger individual, you would lean a little bit more on the 40 end. How about intra-game? Well, if you really want to break this down, I recorded a video not long ago called What to Drink During Hockey. You're able to find it on the YouTube channel, no problem at all. But long story short, 10 to 15 grams of a protein isolate plus 20 to 40 grams of a carbohydrate powder, ideally a carbohydrate powder that also included electrolytes. I'll include my recommendations for which products you should use in the description below. But this would be our intra-game shake to ensure that we're actually starting the recovery process before you even get off the ice, which is a real magical thing. It's a combination of amino acids, carbohydrates, and electrolytes mixed in the right solution. Pre-game, intra-game, and then post-game, I don't want to just give you absolute numbers. I find these numbers work fantastic for all hockey players that I work with, but post-game is when we really want to accelerate recovery and dial things in even to the next level. So I want you to do a calculation to kickstart this process, okay? We're trying to really accomplish 4 main things: turn off muscle damage, turn on muscular repair, support the nervous system, and then revitalize our fuel stores. If you can do all 4 of those in the post-game window, then you are recovering and you are going to be way faster than everyone else out in the ice who doesn't understand these strategies. 0.5 gram per kilogram of body weight of protein immediately off ice, and 1 gram per kilogram of body weight of carbohydrates immediately off ice. Again, I do recommend your intra and post-game nutrition come in the form of supplementation simply because they digest and metabolize faster. Whey protein isolate plus a carb powder is going to be in and out of your system in about 60 minutes. Whereas if you sit down, have a great big pasta and with red meat in it, you're talking 11 hours or more. We can't risk that. We don't want to risk your performance in the PM game. So we get that intra. We respect the 4th rule of the golden rules of hockey nutrition, being that we're minimizing GI distress. But then utilizing supplementation, we're able to be a little bit more targeted with our approach in terms of what we know we need to support muscular repair and get the fuel stores in and revitalize the nervous system. But we're also doing it in the fastest digestive metabolizing way possible. And we're also doing it in a way that minimizes GI distress. So I can't emphasize enough, I really think supplementation, intra and post, is ideal, whereas you want to focus on whole food everywhere else, okay? Timing is critical. Do not have the carb load meal the night before. Have it with lunch the day before. This is what the breakdown of your big picture diet should look like throughout the day on a tournament, with more leeway going towards carbohydrates if you're finding yourself more hungry, minimizing fat and fiber until after your final game, utilizing this approach for your pre, intra, and post-game nutrition, And now I know that's a lot of information, so I wanted to put together a little example schedule for you. All right? Example meal schedule. Tournament day, you've got 2 games. What's the day going to look like? Well, you're going to get up at around, say, 7 a.m. and then have breakfast at 8 a.m. Breakfast is your pregame meal because the game is happening at 10. Pre-game meal should always be 1 to 3 hours before your game. Physiologically speaking, that's when you're going to still have a readily available flow of glucose and amino acids and hydration in your body. Whether you like 1 hour before or 3 hours before, biochemically speaking, it doesn't really matter. Just get it in that window. But 8 a.m. pre-game meal, remember, 1-to-1 ratio of protein to carbohydrates. 30 to 40 grams of each. Don't overcomplicate it. Let's get some eggs and oatmeal in. Perfect. All right? 10 a.m., now we're getting our intra-game shake. We prepared in advance, so we got this ready to rock and roll with us out in the ice. We're getting the carb powder in. We're getting that whey isolate in. We're getting our electrolytes in. Immediately off the ice, we already have it prepared in our bag. 0.5 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight and 1 gram of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight immediately off the ice. That's going to digest in your body, no problem. You won the game. You got a hat trick, obviously, because you're following these nutrition protocols. So you're going to go for the next game. You got your post-game shake. Wait about an hour after that shake to have your next meal, which is what it's going to be after you undress and kind of get out of there anyways. But your next meal is lunch, and it's simply your pre-game meal again. So 30 to 40 grams of protein and carbohydrates, or 40 to 50 if you're a little bit bigger. Get that in, just a 1-to-1 ratio. Since it's not breakfast anymore, your lunch could simply be chicken and rice. So pre-game meal, breakfast, eggs and oatmeal. Lunch, chicken and rice. Boom, done. Keeping it simple, but also keeping it accurate with the numbers that we're after here. Intra-game shake looks exactly like it did at 10 a.m. Post-game shake looks exactly like it did at 11 a.m. And then at 4 p.m., 1 hour after that post-game shake, have whatever you want. Now's the time to celebrate, okay? If you won your morning game, don't go out for lunch with the team and get burgers and bacon and all kinds of stuff, because those are going to digest slow. And by the time you get to your next game, you can't be surprised that your performance isn't optimal because you ate everything you shouldn't have and you simply celebrated too early. So I like to keep it clean, keep it good, make sure I'm a well-oiled vehicle before I enter that second game. But then once my second game is done, then celebrate. Do whatever you want. 4 p.m., have a great meal with the team. Now's the time to celebrate. 7 p.m., you can do the same thing all over again. It's psychologically stressful to be in a tournament. It's physiological stressful to be in a tournament. And nothing's as nice as kind of just eating what you wanted throughout the day. Again, I recommend getting a little bit more fat and fiber in this meal to round off your macronutrients for the day so that you get your amount right and your timing right. And then last but not least, we're going to go to bed at 10 p.m. nice and early because we always want to optimize sleep length and sleep quality before our next day at this tournament. Okay? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something here. Always let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, to like it and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for your free explosive speed package, click on the link in the comment section below.